Hi, welcome to EDSC 551. I'm Professor Bobo, and this is week 2. So for week 2, you have one discussion board that is due this week. Again, those are due on Thursday, the initial post, and you need to respond to 2 peers by Sunday. And then this week, you also have your first assignment that is due ethics and professionalism for school counselors. Please refer back to my welcome video, which goes over in detail about the particular assignment and the requirements for the assignment. Just a quick reminder, make sure that you look at the rubric and have included all the information according to the rubric to receive your full points. This week, we are the overview. We're reading chapters 3 and 4 on cyberspace and the FERPA Family Education Rights and Privacy Act. I will be going over the important information from our book, and I'll be doing that in a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation, which I'll begin in just a moment. All right. So, welcome everybody. So this week we'll be talking about cyberspace and the Family Educational Rights to Privacy Act. All right. So technology, today's world has a lot of technology, and we've seen it at all levels. As I am a professor, my job has me at elementary. I've had the opportunity to do middle and high school as well as a school counselor. I know that in middle school and high school, technology is really taking over. It is becoming a huge disciplinary issue as for many of the deans and principals on campus, and for parents. It's a big, huge worry for parents. It is very difficult for us to maintain our stance as in the educational system. We're here for academics. We're here for learning, and it's impossible because our learning is consistently being disrupted with the process of technology. Although technology gives us many great advances, we have to protect our children from the negatives of technology. So it has a significant impact on the profession of counseling, and the counselors need to establish a solid presence for the internet, and we need to make sure that we have an abundant opportunities to access virtual libraries, research the latest information on our clients' problems, and use the most effective counseling techniques, and collaborate and consult with other professionals around the world. So the use of technology is very important, but at the same time, it has its limitations, and these are the things that we need to be aware of. So, how technology is being used today, as we saw through the pandemic, we noticed that technology allowed us to connect with our classes and connect with many others, to provide mental health services and see our students and see if they were safe, how they were feeling, and give them strategies, even though we weren't able to be in constant contact, physical face-to-face contact with them. So, and again, technology has allowed us to be able to be useful with these technologies, but we also had confidentiality issues when we were providing those mental health services. We also had things that we saw in the home that maybe we would not have seen. I mean, it turned out potentially to be good for us if we protected the child, but some things we were invading in the home's privacy. All right. So, and then we also need to make sure that our clients are not being subjected to social media activities such as addiction, cyberbullying, and current relationships for the ones that they found online. So we don't want them to develop these false relationships, but be able to come back and be able to develop relationships face to face, because sometimes technology gives us this false bravado that we are able to, or we have these great friends online, but they're really not our friends. All right. So our code of ethics standards was redeveloped in 2022, and one of the sections that introduced it was devoted to the issues of technology. And counselors needed to actively attempt to understand and involve the nature of the profession with regards to distance counseling, technology and social media, and how such resources can be better used to serve their clients. So it's important that we continue to become knowledgeable about these resources and how to use distance counseling. Now, one of the things that came out of the Code of Ethics that was really important for us is that we established that we are not a 24/7 department. So, and the ASCA standards stand by us with that, because with the blocking and Blocksy and all these different tools that are available, when the students are online at home and we receive these Blocksy reports that show that they are searching for unhealthy or unsafe things, then it makes us responsible. I know that during the time of the pandemic, I know I was up all night. I would see these Blocksy reports and I would get nervous because it's the middle of the night. It may be 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's like, how do you give services or get support to that particular family? Does that parent know or not know that their child is searching sexual things, is searching predators, we had many people get viruses because the students had the computers at home, and then they would connect to a website, maybe of sexual nature, that would give them a virus, and it would just keep going. And it was normal curiosity. However, it was a danger to themselves. So we had to have those type of conversations with our parents, like making sure that they utilize the parental controls and so on. So these are the things that came out of technology during the pandemic, and it still is in today. Although we are face to face today, it is important for us to recognize that our students still have computers to take home to complete assignments, to have access to their tools and their academics, and they're still utilizing it in a negative way. So we have to be careful and make sure that they are aware of the proper way of utilizing the technology that we have. All right. So direct student services is the ASCA model that we provide direct and indirect services. The direct services are core curriculum, individual student planning, response to services, and school counselors can deliver this in a synchronous or asynchronous online delivery, where one is not physically co-located with a student, thus person to person, rather than in person. So these can be direct services, and this is something that helps you when you are doing your counseling fieldwork position. That these are all the definitions of direct student services. Indirect services are provided on behalf of the student as a result of the school's counselor's interaction with others. These services are delivered through strategies such as referral, consultation, collaboration, and how frequently they use online or remote settings for their systems of support. So it is important that student safety is highlighted at all times, and that we encourage students to take full advantage of technological resources, and that we collaborate with school counselors, educators, parents, and law enforcement officials to ensure that the students are protected, and that we always know that there's a risk when it comes to cyber space, and that we are monitoring that, and we have tools for monitoring that, and that we keep in contact with that. Again, it's important that we recognize that we are not responsible 24/7, but that we're open from, our start time to our finish time. And after that, we are not necessarily responsible. The next time that we can, act on that is when we return back to work. So that's important to recognize. Behavior safety and privacy risks students may face due to technology is we have the online addictions, invasions of privacy, disclosure of personal information, inappropriate online communications, easy access to inappropriate media, cheating and copyright infringement, cyberbullying and harassment, and sexual predators. So these are all important things that we need to remember. These are some actions that counselors can take to promote safety: collaborate on the development of school policies, respond to online incidents affecting conditions of learning, assist with the community to detect at-risk behavior, and address digital citizenship. So we don't want to take away the tools, because the tools provide so much resource for us, but we do need to monitor it as closely as we possibly can, and make sure that our students are safe. Okay, can we be disciplined or terminated for behavior on our social media accounts? So there are several cases that demonstrate that educators can and do lose their jobs over online comments. A number of states have passed laws and policies limiting student and educator contact in cyberspace to avoid improper student and educator relationships. And the Ask Association proposed that professional educators must act with conscientious effort to exemplify the highest ethical standards. So, yes, we can be disciplined for what is on our social media accounts. I use my social media account just to connect with people. I rarely post anything, and this is just so that I can have an account in the event that I do need to look up something for a student, but that I'm in touch with it. I can see how it works somewhat. But again, we're never going to know as much as our students know, especially as we get older and we don't utilize it. We don't see the new features that are being brought in. So these are important things to remember. Professional distance in the space of professionalism. We need to keep a distance between our relationships with others and any relationships that they have that are personal. This space is required for professional obligations, and to have protective boundaries between the student and the school counselor. So we do develop relationships with our students. Sometimes they last over time, but it's important that we could have those boundaries, right? And that we shouldn't be getting personal telephone numbers, et cetera, for our students, so that it can be looked upon in a negative way. This is a court case. It's an example of vigilance and judgment educators need to use with social networking. This was a non-tenured English student that was a teacher that was terminated from his position at a high school in Connecticut. He reached out to his students by creating this MySpace account to encourage communication, but the school board fired him because he had peer-like conversations that impeded the learning atmosphere. He filed a lawsuit, but lost in court when it was determined that the destruction of the learning process outweighed the educational value of the MySpace. So although we have these different technological social media opportunities to communicate effectively, we want to make sure it's not a disruption. So we use Class Dojo as a means to text I have found that this works extremely well with our parents because, especially our working parents, many of our parents have gone back to work, and about all they can do is take a look at their phone in between different things. They don't have time for phone calls. They don't have time to come up to the school and see things, especially if they're working before and after school hours. Um, so Class Dojo allows you to post things that are school related. So this way, the parent gets the information right away. Of course, there are many tools out there that do the same, and the student, the parent can also text you. I have a page on that Class Dojo as the dean and the counselor, and when we start, we tell the parents to join our Class Dojo. And this way they have a direct link of texting to us. So, for example, if a child comes home and they're extremely sad, the parent may be overwhelmed, doesn't have the ability to take time off, but needs to address the situation immediately, they can send me a text at 6 o'clock in the evening. I don't have to respond to it at 6 o'clock in the evening, but I can respond to it at 8 in the morning and let them know I'm on top of it. I'm going to meet with the student immediately and get back to that parent. And then I can either send a text, because those texts go directly, to the parent, and just let the parent know, let's set up a meeting. When are you able to come in? If it's detailed or if it's as simple as I'm going to be sending home a consent form, if you can sign that, then I'll be providing counseling services based on the information that I've learned by interviewing with the student. So these are just important ways that we can use it, but by keeping it just simple and educationally related, then we are not stepping over those boundaries. All right, this disinhibition effect. This is things that people say or do in cyberspace that they wouldn't ordinarily do in face-to-face conversations. This effect is creating feelings of invisibility and anonymity. It amplifies this effect, and it results in people dropping their guard and revealing too much about themselves, such as secrets, fears, wishes. And this is an asynchronous effect, not interacting in real time, such as email and message boards, but seems to contribute to the disinhibition effect. All right, so student safety on the internet. School counselors can help parents and guardians improve communication with their children around internet use and help parents understand how to establish and reinforce internet use rules, such as keeping the computer in a common area. Um, Facebook has developed an initiative called Facebook for Counselors. It's in alliance with the Internet Keeping Safe Coalition, and it's available as a free download, and there is the website that you can use. Cyberspace and search and seizures. So reasonable search of a student's possessions by school officials occur when officials are suspicious of a student's activities and have reason to believe that the student has violated school regulations, and when conducting a search is directly related to the initial suspicion. So this helps us with those the violent acts and the mental health, when we're in fear that someone may have brought something, a weapon of some sort, to school and has intent to cause harm to themselves or others at the school. All right. So we get this information maybe through a text or something that leads us to being able to research that person and search in their locker, backpack, anything. All right. And then unreasonable search and seizure cases do occur. That means that they didn't follow the reasonable student search, which means that you violated a school rule and you search the person's possessions without reasonable doubt. All right. So this is highlighting one specific case, Clump versus the Nazareth Area School District, when the teacher confiscated Clump's cell phone, and when Clump violated school rules and used it in the classroom. So we all have cell phone usage policies at our school. And I know that ours is it needs to be off, and it needs to be in the backpack and no noise, but they can have it on their person. So if the phone goes off, we just ask the student to turn it off. It doesn't mean that we need um, to go through the phone because it went off. Now, in an example of, let's say it went off multiple times, you may say, well, this is your fourth time, so I'm going to take the phone, because perhaps the phone calls, you need to kind of see who's calling and have a conversation with the person in charge of the phone, the person who's paying for the phone. Okay, but in this particular case, the teacher and the principal later accessed the students' personal text messages, voices, and phone calls to classmates to inquire about drug activity. And a drug-related text message was received on the officials while the officials were in possession of the phone. But because they took the phone and was going through it, that made that an unreasonable search at that time. Now, if they had knowledge of the fact that the student was receiving these texts, and maybe someone else told them about it, and they were then the phone consistently went off, and then they saw the text messages, that would be different, because they were informed, through another source, that the student was using their phone for this type of drug related messages. All right, so you already did a PowerPoint on FERPA, so I'm just going to kind of go over some basics about FERPA and highlight the important parts of it. So FERPA is regarding a student and protecting and handling and disseminated information about the student and the family, and making sure that everyone doesn't have access to that information, and what are the rules that involve that. All right. So we need to know that managing school educational records does not fall within the appropriate role of a school counselor, but it's important to have working knowledge of the guidelines to advocate for legal and ethical protection of school counselor case notes and any other written information kept on a student. So according to FERPA, a parent or eligible student must provide written consent before personally identifiable information is disclosed from a student's educational record. The following is a partial list of exceptions that do not require parent or eligible students' permission. So school officials with a legitimate educational interest, along with school counselors or school officials and teachers and others, are those that have access to these private records. These are when another school to which the student is transferring. This is these are the exceptions that don't require a parent or student's permission. Federal or state, local officials or purpose for audit or evaluation, conducting specific studies at the school, organizations involved in accreditations, holders of judicial order or lawfully issued subpoenas, appropriate parties in connection with health or safety emergencies, local and state authorities and juvenile systems in compliance with specific state laws, and an agency's caseworker or other representatives of state or local child welfare agencies and tribal organizations in relationship to foster care. Directory information, it does not require the student or the parent's consent. Directory information includes name, address, telephone number, And the FERPA allows school districts to determine the items that they will consider directory information within certain parameters. And then the school district must establish policy and procedures regarding directory information policies, and they must decide not to participate in releasing directory information at all. Parents also have the right to request the student's directory information not be released by opting out of the disclosure. So, how often are parents notified? Their FERPA requires school districts to notify parents of their rights under FERPA each year. And as a part of that notification, schools also require notifications concerning directory information, including advising parents that they can opt out of having their child's directory information made public. Some guidelines for FERPA. They need to make sure that legitimate educational interests, which generally means you may access an educational record for the purpose of performing an appropriate task within your job description, performing a task related to a student education, performing a task related to discipline, and providing a service or benefit related to the student or student's family, such as counseling, health care, or job placement. So these are the basic guidelines, and this is the information that we need to be aware of. All right. Thank you so much for your attention during this week 2. Be sure to read over the assignments and remember that you have one discussion board and one assignment due this week.